are live.
We are live as you put on your lipstick and I have to silence the corporate phone. So it's okay. I mean, and we're probably going to be joined today by Karma, the Abbey Research cat.
The adopted Abbey Research cat who has decided now is the perfect time to be hungry. She's going to have to wait. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Live with the Good Doctors.
Yep.
We are going to blow through a couple things first that we think you should know, and then we're going to jump into our main topic today, which is about how you can very easily and conveniently blame the Puritans for your exhaustion. They make great scapegoats because they're all dead, but also because it is actually all their fault. So
we can blame the Puritans for so many things.
Not a problem at all. All right. So Dr. Aaron, you have for us a few talking points. What would you like to discuss first in matters of equity and empathy?
Things I would like to talk about. First up would be the fact, I don't know if anybody else, oh my gosh, that is not great. Okay. We're going to keep talking through. We're having some audio issues. We don't know why my voice reverberates, besides the fact that I'm amazing, but apparently it does. We're still working on it. Okay. So 2 weeks ago, Rick Santorum, former senator from the great state of Pennsylvania, current CNN commentator, spoke at a Young Americans Foundation conference and said some pretty horrible things. If you missed what he said, guess what? I have the clip. So we'll start with that and go from there.
We came here and created a blank slate. We birthed a nation from nothing. I mean, there's nothing here. I mean, yes, we have Native Americans, but candidly, that there isn't much Native American culture in American culture. It was born of the people who came here pursuing religious liberty to practice their faith, to live as they ought to live. I don't know any other.
Okay, that's enough, I think, from Rick. Thanks, Rick. So why we're talking about this today, that was a couple of weeks ago. There have been a lot of pushes from within the vast and diverse and expansive Native American Indigenous communities to have him fired for coming and saying that when people landed in what became the United States of America, there was nothing here. We created a blank slate from nothing, which could not be more patently false. Obviously, this land was previously occupied by the indigenous peoples, but also, just as a short point, are the very foundations of our democratic system we took from the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also known as the Iroquois Confederacy, because that's where we got the three branches of government from. So I just wanted to highlight it in case anybody missed it. I think it's something we need to know about because we don't talk about Native and Indigenous folks a lot in public. This has gotten some attention. Trevor Noah covered it on The Daily Show, if you saw that. But, you know, akin to saying something horrible about American history and inaccurate about American history relating to the enslavement of Black folks, this has not gotten the same level of attention and or outrage. And so that is why it is something you need to know about if you want to. There's a couple of petitions going around by Illuminative and Indian Country to have him removed from CNN, because I really don't think anybody who thinks that about our country should have that kind of public platform. CNN's response was to not say anything at all until last week, and then they invited Rick Santorum on to Chris Cuomo's show to explain and defend himself. Again, not a great look, especially from an empathy perspective. What was really missing from that conversation was any voice of any Native or Indigenous person.
Or a religious liberty scholar, just also to throw that out there. That's one of my other big with this, but we'll get into it.
I know. I hadn't seen the clip long enough to see that he talked about religious liberty. And then I was like, if you guys saw me go like this, I was like, oh, that's Dr. Kristen's hill. Yeah. So, there's the Native American Journalists Association that you could just DM on Twitter and say, hey, would one of your folks like to come on and have a conversation about what Rick Santorum said? That was not CNN's response. Their response was to give Rick Santorum the platform to explain himself. I did not watch that clip. I don't care what it was. It's very clear that this clip was what Rick Santorum thinks. And anything else he said after that was just damage control. So this is our example, like what not to do. Welcome to the Good Doctor's What Not to Do Empathy Corner. And speaking of what not to do, the other thing I'd like to share with you that I shared with Dr. Kristen a few weeks ago, I got a newsletter from a person who I think is my friend, but not really, Carolyn Criado Perez, who wrote this fantastic book, Invisible Woman. There's a review of it on our Abbey Research Reads sister channel. It is a Bible for the good doctors. We reference it always. But she has a weekly newsletter in which she discusses things relating to gender bias. And one of her hills that she will die on is this male default world that we live in which things are built, including even our iPhones, for male size hands. So if you've ever wondered why it's really hard for you to hold your phone like this if you're a lady, it's because they made them too big for our typical lady hands. So the other thing, we wanted to introduce the concept to you all, because I'm sure all our wonderful viewers out there have thought to themselves, you know what I am missing when I am menstruating? I am missing period gloves. I wish I was kidding. Some entrepreneurial German men, apparently not talking to women at all, decided that what we needed most for help with our menstruation products was gloves. In the immortal words of Caroline, so that we weren't an innovative corrective to our tendency to leave every bathroom we visit looking like a Hitchcock set. So feeling a little sarcasm there from our Caroline, which is understandably so. What I love about this so much was that not only did they make the gloves pink so that they could charge more for them, it's $15 US for 48 of these bad boys, but they made them too big, as is very clear by the photo. So not only did they make products that we don't need, make them pink so that they could charge more for them, then they also made them too big. So for that, in terms of what not to do, empathy corner, I would say don't make period products without talking to ladies.
I think or talking to people who menstruate.
Yes, forgive me. Humans who menstruate are the people you should be speaking to when you want to make a product for them.
I mean, that just kind of goes, what you should always speak to the people you're making the product for. Like, this feels like general research and development, manufacturing knowledge. Like, I told this story to both my brother and my father this weekend, whose eyes went wide. Like, what, like, that was like, there was no, they couldn't figure out how many things went wrong along this process. But
who gives them the money? Like, that's the thing that I can't understand.
No, who was the venture capitalist that was like, you know what, I'll invest in? Period gloves.
Period gloves. And
like, you know what we actually are asking for is no tax. We're actually asking for free distribution of sanitation goods. Like, I have a list of things I want when it comes to menstruation and periods. Absolutely no point in time if I wanted gloves.
Have I wanted gloves? Yeah. And it's just, I'm like, what do they imagine women's bathrooms look like? Or, just like covered horror movie-esque. Like, no, clearly they don't. And we've managed to be hygienic. without the help of oversized pink gloves.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, but no thanks. Okay, those were my things we needed to talk about.
Amazing. So hello to everybody who is with us. We will, in the way that Clubhouse always says it, we will reset the room. So let's reset the live. We are making sure that we're providing space in every live moving forward for kind of empathy building examples, as it were, as the world happens. But we're going to make sure that the timestamps for the sections are underneath. So if you're part of our replay crew, hello replay crew, you can jump to what you care about and what you don't. And if you are somebody who is here to talk about me, honestly, because this is my hill to die on, Puritans, good news. We're going to get into that now. And I am marking down the time so that we can let you know what's going on.
Love it.
To piggyback.
Why are we so exhausted? That's what I'd like to know.
There's a lot of explanations, to be completely honest. There is, the COVID of it all. There is the Western culture of it all. There's a whole lot of reasons. I want to upfront right now talk about 3 experts in this area that we're going to link to below. One of whom has an interview coming up on this channel in the next couple months. The first is a book on burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, which you have heard probably, if you're not new here, you've heard us talk about it before, and it's a lot of the scientific stuff behind burnout and what burnout actually is. And then the other one, and I'm pulling up the book title right now because it is a newer book to me, and I do not want to misstate the book's title after I spoke to its author so recently. Pardon. And this is when I sing because I didn't have this up and I should have. We're doing live, folks. Okay, it's called The Bounce Back Ability Factor is the book by a woman named Caitlin Donovan, who is based in New York City and has been doing burnout work forever. And her Welcome to My World, I've recorded this past week, and it will be up in later on in this summer. But both of the links to those books will be in the show notes, because I think there is the kind of undergirding background of why we're exhausted, which is what Dr. Aaron and I are going to get into today. And then there's the more like, how do you get out of it? What do you do about it? Which is what these brilliant people do. Because really our tagline is we just tell you what's broken, not how to fix it. No, we tell you what's broken and then point you to the best fixers out there.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do.
Yeah.
American culture is built on Puritanical theology and has been since, the jump.
Good morning. Good Monday morning.
Good Monday morning. Someday, maybe we're going to talk about really, really happy topics. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but you guys just let us know if you've got a happy thing that you want us to break down, because we'll do it.
But today it's Puritanical theology.
Today it's Puritanical theology. So going back to our former senator, Mr. Santorum, he says people came over here for religious liberty. It's partially true. There is definitely groups of people that came to the United States from England that were seeking refuge from religious persecution, the largest group of which is the Puritans, who landed in Massachusetts on Plymouth Rock, the whole thing. There are other groups that came to the United States for a host of other reasons, including freeing persecution from being actual criminals and being indentured servants. And once Australia got too full for the refuse of England, they started shoving them to America. So it is both true and not true that people came here seeking religious liberty. However, Roger Williams is one of the most prolific writers that we still have all of his works from in colonial times. And he definitely came here to start honestly, a Christian nation. He talks about his colony being a light on a hill. That's very religious language. And the idea that there shouldn't be a state church and everybody should be free to be whatever kind of Christian they want. Because in Roger Williams's mind, you were free to be everything and anything, and he wanted to respect anything, but to him still the ultimate goal was that everybody would be a Christian. And so he's going through the world that way. He was not by any stretch of the imagination somebody who was trying to do forced conversions or anything else like that, but like his default was still Christian. So the thing with the Puritans is that they came over on their little boats. A lot of them died, didn't go so well at first, and by a lot of them we mean a lot of them died, because if you've never been to the United Kingdom, here's what you need to know. There really isn't snow there.
No.
There is not snow. The ground is different. What you grow in the UK versus what you grow in Massachusetts are different things. And Rick Steves had not come along yet to give them a travel guide. So they went in pretty feckin' blind. That first winter, rough stuff. The local tribes of Native Americans were like, hey, we're going to give you pity also because we're just tired of dead white folk on our beaches. You know, we'll figure this out, how to do it together. We'll teach you what to plant. It'll all be better.
Yeah.
In the middle of that, Puritans were still trying to kill the native folks, and the native folks were still trying to defend their land. So the way I kind of see it is that it's the same way it is now, where you've probably got like 20% of the population trying to work really, really hard together to create like a cohesive, harmonious society. And then you've got a bunch of people that don't really care. And then you've got the asshats who are still trying to kill each other. This is kind of how I see the beginning interactions at first, because there's absolutely evidence of cooperation at the beginning. And I don't want to discount that, but that does not discount the violence that was also happening.
Yeah.
So messy situation. Anyway, so
as time progressed, we leaned into the genocide of it all.
Yeah, we were super into genocide. So
into genocide and forced assimilation. But yes,
we digress. Back to the 1600s.
Yeah.
So because the native peoples helped them survive the next winter, they stuck around and grew in numbers. They had a lot of babies, and they learned, their bodies assimilated to the climate of the United States. They grew immune systems that fought the diseases that were common in the United States, et cetera, et cetera. So the Puritans became incredibly powerful. They founded the colony of Massachusetts, more or less. That's broad strokes. So they hung around. They were a big deal. Now let's talk about what the Puritans believed.
Let's.
Puritans believed in a couple really key elements that may sound familiar to you. The first is that you are a good person if you work hard. The second is that rest only comes after you die. And the third is that you're supposed to do this all alone. That the best way to be a pious person, the best way to get into the good graces of God, the best way to make sure you went to heaven for your eternal rest was to be an individual worker who worked really hard and didn't expect any rewards on earth. Sure, they kept the Sabbath, but like not really, if we're completely honest. And they definitely hit me as people where if they had electricity, they would have kept working the Sabbath. There was other stuff, and they didn't cease all work because you couldn't, because they were on farms. So it was a whole thing. So again, I want to reiterate, you are only a good person if you work hard. All of your rest comes after you die, and you are only a good person if you figure out how to do this all alone. We don't get the phrase, pull yourself up from your bootstraps from the Bible the way that people talk about it. We get it from the Puritans. The Puritans are who created this culture in the East Coast of the United States. I'll raise my hand. I was raised 100% in this culture. I believe it to my core until I was taught something different.
Mm.
Into this, and that just became the model of success. Now, I should say this, all of these behaviors really support capitalism.
What?
If you have this attitude, you will be a master capitalist.
Just gonna show.
Morning, Jay.
We're gonna understand why we're all laughing. Good morning, Jay. And yes, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
So this became American culture. Now, one of the reasons that we talk about this in our workshops, and if you want us to come to your Zoom corner of the world and unpack this for you further, we talk a lot about a guy named Max Weber, who's one of the founders of sociology. And he had this idea that the Protestant work ethic is what fed capitalism. And like, he wasn't wrong. It's a unfinished theory, because then the other side of his theory was that Catholic countries were poor because Catholics are lazy. So like, it wasn't really a great theory. It didn't really do what it needed to do. But there is a piece there where the puritanical Calvinistic Protestant work ethic is absolutely something that feeds capitalism. It thrives within capitalism, and capitalism thrives within it. There is a bit of a symbiotic relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
So the United States was from the jump capitalistic, just from the jump, because the Puritans showed up and they're kind of who made it happen. And it just kept happening. Everyone who came over, whether you were a criminal or seeking religious liberty or got on the wrong boat at some point, or if you were here of your own accord, you fell into this situation. Then, in order to keep feeding this capitalistic monster, we started bringing over enslaved peoples, not only from the west coast of Africa, but up from South America and the Caribbean. And we just kept feeding this myth that you do it alone, you work hard so that you're a good person, and you rest until you die. Now, you're maybe thinking, but Dr. Kristen, anyone who brought slaves over wasn't working hard. Au contraire. That's a separate live, but there was some real interesting theological gymnastics there that were done to make sure that whoever worked for you working hard also meant that you were a good person. So we can cover that at another time. My point is this. The United States has never had a state religion. We are not a Christian nation. We are a nation that was founded by a lot of people with Christian beliefs. Very true. I will not push back against that. But they were so adamant that there would not be a state church. It's literally written into the Constitution, not just in the First Amendment, but also in Article 6. Like, it's a real thing that they wanted to be really careful about. Now, colonies had state churches. The colony of Maryland, for instance, is still very highly Catholic. No one talks about that. Colony of Massachusetts was a Congregationalist colony. The colony of Virginia had state churches for a little while, mostly Episcopalian or Anglican at the time. But once we all gathered ourselves up in these United States, there was no official religion. So what happened was we created an American civil religion. And what it meant to be an American, and a good American, and a powerful American, meant to be Puritan in a way, to put it really crassly. But the people that could vote at the beginning were the people who owned land. How do you own land? You work really hard. You do it alone, and you rest when you're dead.
You take it from people, and then you do those things.
Yeah. So, how do you do all this stuff? You are still this person. So I'm not advocating for a state church, by the way, but I'm saying that nothing has ever pushed back against that. Nothing as a national project has ever said, you know what? No, there's something different. All we have ever done is celebrate those values. The American dream is those values and ignoring all the things that have to happen or the consequences of our actions. So, I mean, truly, the American civil religion is holding those things as sacred and ignoring all the consequences.
Yeah. And using them to exclude people that don't fit what that dream is. And that has evolved from that time. But so many of the systems built into our economy allowed only certain people to thrive and only certain people to work. And we're still fighting that battle today as we have arguments about enfranchisement and workers' rights and paid family leave and all of these kinds of things. But I think the thing that I learned from you, the more I hear you talk about this, is how baked in it is into the American psyche that we don't even realize where these ideas come from and why we think that way when, when nobody explicitly said it to us this way, but we all still understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fighting against those ideas. It's learning that other ideas exist and fighting against them. That's the hard work.
And this keeps going. The narrative of immigrant families that like you work really hard and sacrifice everything so your kids have a better future. There are not all of this is all bad. Right. I am not saying to deconstruct Puritan theology because first of all, we're never going to. Second of all, I'm not completely convinced that capitalism is terrible. I am convinced that unrestricted capitalism is terrible. But though all of those things I just said did create a lot of opportunities for people who would have never had them in other circumstances. That is true. It has oppressed a ton of people that would not be oppressed in the system. But I want to also be very clear. Every single country, every single culture around the planet is both privileged and oppressed. Every single one, whether you're puritanical or you're not, whether you're capitalistic or you're socialist, the system leaves people out everywhere because humans and humanity and the planet, we are unfinished and we always have work to do. So I, being proud to be an American, have never fully bought into any system that isn't capitalism. I'll say that. But I've also been like, you know what? This is a really shitty way to do capitalism. So let's
not great.
Differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's really my battle cry. I think it's a great thing to work hard because there's also like stuff within us that feels satisfied after hard work, all of those kind of things. Here's my problem. We accepted a very narrow definition of working hard.
Mm-hmm.
The myth of individuality that then fed the cowboy myth, that then fed manifest destiny, that then fed, that is toxic. And that we have got to get rid of.
Yeah.
That we have to burn to the damn ground.
Yeah.
Everything else we have to like edit a little, but like the individuality, I mean, it is our number one cultural value in the United States is individualism.
Yeah, wherever we are on that scale of cultural values, we are the country that is so far on the individualism, collectivism.
Yeah, I think we're like 95% individual versus 5% collective.
Yeah, and that is really, really damaging.
Yeah.
Because it's when that value works in tandem with the work hard that we maintain the systems that exclude people and that oppress people.
That's a great point. Like it's the individualism that is toxic in this because we both believe that you can work hard, but the only true work hard is working with other people.
Yeah. And working to help other people.
Yeah.
And being honest, like the only thing that I think is so damaging about these myths is that the more we lean on them, the less we see the real roots of our country. Mm-hmm. And they've acted as blinders.
Yeah.
So that we can perpetuate myths about our founding.
Yeah, because it's the ultimate, this is the way it's always been, because like literally it has been. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and going back to where we started with Rick Santorum, like he believes those three things that you outlined. And he also believes that like we have America because we worked hard and we created it from a blank slate.
Yeah, and we didn't.
So like they do need critiqued.
Mm-hmm. So all of this, what all of this means for your individual life.
Yeah. Why are we telling you this on a Monday morning?
Is that the predisposition of Americans to be burned out is excessive. There's a joke that's been going around Twitter that I absolutely adore, which is like, European out of office replies in the summer is I'm closed till September. I'll email you back then.
Yeah.
And American out of office replies are I'm getting my kidney removed. If you give me 5 minutes, I'll make sure to reply to your query.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's true.
It's true.
So you are predisposed, this like feeling of I will never be able to do enough. I will never get out from under this. I will never, ever, like truly every time you joke to somebody, I really miss sleeping. Every time, that's a sign of burnout. The other thing I learned from Caitlin Donovan is that passive death wishes are also a thing of burnout. If you've ever been driving down the road and you're like, man, it would just be so much easier if I can get in a car accident. And then maybe in surgery, I could get a nap.
Yeah. Then maybe I could rest. Maybe
if I could have a non-life threatening case of the flu. If you were jealous of anyone that had to quarantine during COVID, you might be burned out. Like, and I say this from experience because I frequently joke, man, if I could just break my leg, maybe I could get a
From a
nap.
place of love. Yeah.
So, but none of it's in this very real way. Like, the foundations of this are not your fault.
Right.
Your reaction to it is your responsibility.
And believe it or not, it is something you can work on and work to control. It's hard work. It's an uphill battle. But the good news is we can change how we orient ourselves around what it means to be a productive person.
Absolutely. And how we measure the worth of humans is something we have to really, really deal with. So we talked a little bit about self-care last week, and that's important. And we wanted to piggyback on this. So then I'm just going to say, we'll do some other stuff. I'm not wrapping up. I just want to let you guys know we're not going to be able to join you next week.
Nope.
Which we respect will grieve several of you to your souls. It will grieve none of you. We know where we stand. But I'm going to be on plane coming back from giving my TEDx. And so I do not trust American Airlines in-flight Wi-Fi to be able to support StreamYard.
No, since the Hilton in Charleston, South Carolina
was on the struggle bus with it. I'm not feeling American Airlines. So we're gonna delay. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, we're gonna continue this conversation of how do you respond?
Yeah.
What do you do? What things do you put in place that go beyond self-care and into rewriting how you keep rest in your life? And how can you structure and value stopping? Because all of this that we talk about, all of the empathy that we talk about is completely exhausting work. Taking care of yourself can be tiring. Taking care of others can be tiring, but educating yourself is tiring.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't have space carved for rest, it's going to be really easy to be like, oh, you know what? Like, I just can't be empathetic today. I need to tap out. And you don't do it consciously, but it's a lot easier to fall back into patterns of who you used to be, the person you don't want to be anymore when you're exhausted.
When you're too tired to do anything else. And I think it's so important for us to really draw out this conversation over a couple of our lives, because it is so complicated, but our brains are not wired to be still. We are not a culture that values stillness, that values being present. Humans are like not really wired to be present, because even when we stop or slow down, we are always thinking about either the future or the past. And like, it's a practice to learn how to be present. It's really hard. It's almost impossible. I try every day in my pranayama practice, and I maybe get a couple of minutes here and there where I'm like, no, I'm really here where I am and not thinking about what I'm cooking for dinner or what email I need to write after this. So it's really hard. And I don't think we talk about it enough, because we just say like, oh, Americans don't take enough vacations. It's just our work ethic. Like, yeah, but let's follow that rabbit trail. And what does it mean for us? And there's so many negative health ramifications.
It's one of the reasons that we have a corporate policy of not letting people sell out their vacation days. Like, you have to take your vacation days. You cannot trade them into us for more money. Right.
And it's like mental health ramifications, physical health ramifications, emotional health ramifications.
Yep, all of it.
It's not a good place for us to be in. No. We come by it honestly, and with quite a lengthy historical record, as Dr. Kristen shared. But we are both firm believers we can't continue down this path without, we've already done a lot of damage on this path. So like, we need to work our way off it, find a different path.
That's our hope. So replay crew, please let us know if you've got questions around here, if you've got comments, if anything else, we love our replay crew and we love talking to everyone. Thanks to those of you who joined us today. And we hope you don't miss us too much next Monday. And we will see you in 2 weeks to talk about this a little bit more.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.